Well, hello friends. Welcome back. This is Amanda with Molly Cole Creations. We are back this week with another video. We are working on just a few little projects that I've been wanting to make on my own. Starting out with our first one, I have had this iron-on transfer paper for quite some time. I have never used it. I created some designs in Canva and printed them off. A couple of things that I learned with this, and I will say I only wasted one sheet, so that's good, but I could have done better. The more you trim, the better off it's going to look, and I kind of did a lazy job of trimming. As I said, I'd never used it before. I wasn't entirely sure. You also do have to mirror your image, which does make sense, but I didn't read the instructions all that well, mostly because the print was so small. I had a hard time reading it. So you do want to mirror, and my printer doesn't have a mirror setting, so I did have to mirror the image within Canva, which was the program I was using to edit. And these are just free images that I got off of there. And once you get it trimmed out the way you like, I laid down my little towel the size that I wanted, and I pulled out my little Cricut mini heat iron. You could use any iron. You could even use a heat press. I just don't have one. And you just heat it up. I believe it said like 45 seconds, but I found some needed a little bit more heat, some areas needed a little bit less heat. And where I didn't trim, you could definitely tell. So I think there's something to the design that you create and trimming it really closely. And I just used the little sheet that it came with. I think it's just regular parchment paper that probably a lot of us already have, but I just used the sheet that came in the package, and I did find it was a little bit easier to remove after it had cooled just a bit. And if you had a sublimation printer, this would probably be a much simpler and more the image would look a lot clearer and it'd be better. I could see why people enjoy the sublimation. However, I do not own one. And these are the kind of images you can't really do with a Cricut and vinyl. This would be a lot of layering. I mean, you could do it, but it would be a lot of cuts, a lot of layers. It has a lot of details in this little bike. Overall, they do both turn out super cute. I have not washed them, and I probably won't. We're not using them for much other than display, really. I set one like up on a blanket ladder, and I don't even have them where someone would want to dry their hands. We're not going to use them to do dishes or anything along those lines. So I can't speak to how this lasts during a good washing. But I did cut the image down into 3 different pieces, kind of so I could space it how I wanted. The sheets come in 8.5 by 11. So if you want to do something a little bit bigger than that, you would need to use more than one sheet or cut it up as I have done here. I was trying to not use a whole lot of the material if I didn't need to. So once I get these all applied, I just peel back that paper and voila, the colors are nice, they are bright. As I said, you can just kind of see where I didn't trim. It almost looks plasticky, which I guess makes sense. This one, I kind of had to fool around with the sizing of the towel. When I folded it the first time, it was too thin or too narrow. And so I grabbed the other towel to kind of compare. I wanted them both to be the same size. So I did change up the fold of this towel. These towels came from Amazon. in a pack. These were actually the last 2 of the pack. I think they had a pack of 4, and I will put those in the link. Also, I believe the paper came from Amazon at one time. As I said, I've had it a while, and I just never have attempted to use it until today. I just really felt like I wanted to break it out and see what I could do with it. Now, these stripes were where you really could notice that I didn't trim. I think it'd been better if I had cut out most of the white stripe, maybe because the towel is light colored. Again, it just could use a little bit more of experimentation, but I love the black and white, and I contemplated cutting another or printing another sheet for the bottom, but in the end I decided not to, that I liked the border down there. So those are our 2 towels, and this was a really fun, different project for me. Not something I am used to working with, but I did enjoy it, and I only wasted 1 sheet, so that's a win for me. Project number 2. This is super simple, and it's a Dollar Tree cutting board. I've actually done something similar to this in another video, and I'm using this little cutting board and a little wooden block. These are going to go outside somewhere. I don't have a garden per se, but I do have like a little patio area that I think will look really cute. I'm giving this just a base coat. I'm using the DIY paint in Apothecary, and it is almost gone. It's one of my favorite colors, so I'm running low on this paint. I kind of have to get down there to the bottom of the jar. I start off by painting the front or the top and all the sides. I left the bottom unpainted at this point because I'm going to add some little legs. Now, I did tape this off to make these stripes with some masking tape, but I was not recording accidentally. And I just placed the tape to get the little white stripes that I wanted, and I used just the Rust-Oleum white chalk paint to get these stripes done. And I did do the sides on this as well. If it's laying flat, you will be able to see that. So I always remove the masking tape when it is still wet or damp. Just seems to work better that way. This is the little block that I mentioned. I cut just a really simple decal on, or with my Cricut, onto some stencil vinyl, and it says the potting shed. I don't have a potting shed, but like I said, I thought it was really cute. I got this idea from a lady on Facebook. She was making some that she was selling, and I thought, well, that is super cute and I can do that. So I kind of just recreated the idea that I got from her. So I'm just weeding that out and making sure I keep all the little innards of the letters that need to be there, and getting that with some transfer tape on top so that I can apply it to the wood block. This wood block was wood at one time. It was just a scrap piece. It was already painted in white, so there is no recording of me doing that because it was already white. I'm just reusing something that I had laying around that I never did anything with. So once it is on with the transfer tape, I just peel that back, and I'm going to use the same color to stencil this lettering in as I did with the stripes on, or with the block, the little mini cutting board that we used just previously. And I just grabbed that same brush. I'm just Nothing fancy. I didn't feel that I needed a whole stencil brush or new brush. Just dabbing and pouncing that paint in really lightly. And this is a very soft font, thin font, so it's not real pronounced, but I just love the simplicity of it, and I think it's just going to look really cute sitting on a shelf, even, you know, in your garden area, your potting area, if you did actually have one, sitting out on the patio near a plant. I think it's just a fun little spring and summer touch to the yard, and I'm just weeding out those little extra pieces, and that is pretty much that on these guys. I will seal them since I am going to put them outside, but I don't show that. I just take it outside. I usually use a Rust-Oleum spray clear matte sealer. Simple, no muss, no fuss. Finished this one off, I went ahead and got out my favorite little stamp, my little bee, and grabbed the IOD ink in black. I inked it up real good and just placed it where I wanted to. When you're using these stamps, once you hold it down or place it down, you are committed. So you want to hold it tight and just press with your other hand and your other fingers, so that you don't get any smudges or shadows or any other lines that you don't want there, that don't belong. And yeah, look how cute. I love it. So cute. This is where I have already glued on the little legs, and I thought it would be easier to paint the bottom once the little legs were glued on. So that is why I waited to paint the bottom. This is project number 3. I'm doing a lemon tiered tray. I think I mention all the time in my videos that I love having tiered tray sets out for the different seasons or holidays. I just think they're fun to create. I enjoy painting them. So they're just kind of my thing. So I have cut all these designs out on my laser, and I'm just kind of figuring out where I want each little element to go, how they're going to line up. I always have to test things up to make sure I measured properly before I cut. And I do kind of divide them also into what piece is getting what color, so that I'm not breaking out all the different colors all at once. I just kind of try to get those, do the white with the white. This one I used the antique Waverly wax mixed with a bit of water that I'm always using, and that was the only piece that I used for that color. Now I'm getting my white done. A lot of it goes in white. This is a very simple tiered tray, and not a lot of different miscellaneous colors. I just kind of stuck with the theme that I was going with. And so these are all getting a coat of white. And one of the trickiest things about the tiered tray is just deciding what colors you want to use. Just trying to decide what looks best, where you're going to put it, what is your theme that you're going with. Next, we are painting all the yellows. This is Maize in Waverly. It's a chalk paint, and I think I've probably mentioned it before, but mine is either dried out or old. I always have to mix it with water to even apply it. Going back to the little DIY paint that I used in the other projects, I finished that up, and with the leaves and anything that needed to be green. I know it's not a perfect green, but it's what I liked and what I wanted to do. And there were a couple of little pieces that needed some black. The 25-cent for the lemonade stand, and I did the little rim of the tag in black. And for that, I just used a bit of folk art, and I did this frame. And I do kind of dry brush a little bit along some of these pieces. It is not recorded because look at this camera angle. It looks terrible. And I didn't realize, number one, I wasn't recording, and then when I turned it on, my camera had moved. So here I am just kind of arranging every piece, making sure I like how the fit is with the leaves and the lemons. And then I do go ahead and get it all glued together. I don't make you sit and watch me glue everything down, but I do use the Surebond Thick, which is my preference of super glue. It dries really fast and has a super thin little nozzle that I can apply to these tiny pieces and not make a huge mess of my project or stick my fingers together, because I've done that. I most certainly have. I do have a few little leftover pieces there that I was kind of debating on whether I was going to use or not. And these are kind of the finished elements. Once I get it all put together on the tier tray, I add a little bit of greenery and some faux like plastic lemons. And this one was really simple. I didn't try to overdo it or overwhelm the tier tray. But this is how it turned out. Isn't that cute? I just love it. The pucker up, the little banner tags. I could do a beaded strand, and I might. But we are moving on to project number 4. My inspiration was from Etsy. I had been kind of perusing Etsy looking for a lemon wreath. The ones at Hobby Lobby were really expensive, and the ones on Etsy were even more. I was flabbergasted. Now, I am not a wreath maker, which is why I was looking to purchase one. But I decided to just try my hand at it. So I went to Hobby Lobby when the Floral was on sale. And I am putting up prices just so you can kind of compare and see how much things are. It's not cheap to even make a wreath. Truthfully, this project was more than, I'm like a $5 and under kind of person for projects, but I really wanted to do this one, and I had a lot of fun doing it. It was an experiment and a learning process for sure. And I was really trying to avoid using hot glue because I like to sometimes use things over and over. When I get tired or something, I'll use the same pieces for a different project. But what I do is I started out cutting up this garland, and I have been told that you need to lay your pieces all facing the same direction. So I started with the bottom layer, which was the garland, and then I started cutting up these picks and just kind of placing them here and there, taking a look, seeing where it needed more space or where there was too many, where it was too heavy. Like I did have to trim off that one side there. I'm using these kind of purple, bluish flowers and these creamy white flowers. Everything that I purchased, like I said, was on the 40% off sale at Hobby Lobby. And these picks were $9.99, and I got 2. And I have used them in other projects. So when I quote the cost on this wreath, I didn't even use everything for this wreath. I have used them in other projects. But I started out with the 14-inch grapevine wreath, one garland at $19.99, 40% off. The 2 picks were $9.99 each at 40% off. And I just kind of fussle around with it, just trying to see what I like, what looks good, what needs more, what needs less. Now I saw this really cool trick on YouTube from a lady who makes wreaths. And she said to use the stems from the floral that you cut down and use them to turn your lemons into picks, which was genius. So I didn't have to glue the lemons down. And the lemons are just like styrofoam, I guess. So the picks just slide right in and into that grapevine. Some of them I had to find a tight space. I didn't want them, falling out, obviously. But I thought that was just a really neat hack, and it is not my own, but I certainly took advantage of using it. Just cutting down those stems that were otherwise probably going to go in the garbage. Some of them I kept the leaves on just for some different variation of color of leaves, and some I pulled the leaves off. The lemons I didn't space out evenly or equally. I just kind of put some close together, some far apart. I put some on the inside of the wreath, some kind of closer toward the outside of the wreath. Now, I did grab some boxwood. I think it's called boxwood. But I didn't purchase this, so I didn't really add it into the cost because I've had it for so long. But I liked it because it was a different shade of green than everything else. I just thought it gave a little bit of variation and interest to the eye. And I didn't use a whole lot of it, just here and there. And then I wanted to make a little bow. Also, I did not purchase this ribbon, so I didn't really include it in the cost, but you could probably add, maybe $1, maybe 50 cents. I don't know. I've had this ribbon a long time and have used it for many other things. And I pulled out this little easy bow maker. I like to use it to make bows. My fingers cramp, and so it just makes making bows for me and my life just a little bit easier. I wanted it to be kind of a simple bow, but wanted it to be substantial enough that, it looks like it was meant to be there. And I just grabbed a wire tie. Wire tie? Is that the word? I think so. Anyway, I just used that to get the bow all cinched up together, and so I could get it all fluffed. And then I used another one of the wire ties to attach it to the wreath. So again, no hot glue. So that is a win. I won't be keeping this outside, so I'm not too worried about like the wind knocking things around. It's not going on my front door. I have a little spot in my living room that I always keep a wreath, and so this one will be placed there. And then I just got those loops kind of arranged how I wanted them to, pulled the wire tie around, and snugged it up real tight, real good. Can't even tell that the wire tie is even there. This is wired ribbon, I believe also from Hobby Lobby. I used my wire cutters to just snip that down, and I'm trimming up the bow, and yeah, it turned out beautiful. Now, is it as good as the lady on Etsy making hers? No, definitely not. But it also did not cost $90+. I did measure this when it was completed. It is roughly 16 inches, so that is the same price that she was charging for this size, which was $89. So, or 87 maybe. I don't remember now. But anyway, there it is, and I think it looks beautiful. I'm not tooting my own horn because it's definitely not perfect. And I do kind of go in and tuck in some of those stray leaves, I guess, that make it look slightly lopsided. I wanted it to be a little bit more round and tailored. But here is everything that we made for this project. I had a lot of fun doing some stuff that I don't always do, and then some stuff that I do always do. But either way, I enjoyed it, and it is just a blessing in my life that I get to craft and create and just get my juices flowing. And I love learning new things from other YouTubers, taking their inspiration, or Facebook, other creators, and getting inspiration from those and making it my own. I hope you all enjoyed this video and you will receive some inspiration from it, and get out there and make something that you love and enjoy it. The goal is to make our home a happy space where we enjoy being and our families can enjoy. Thank you again. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed this video.
Thanks for watching Molly Cool Creations. Click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe and press the bell. Bye. See you in the next video. And don't forget to watch every single video we make.